All right, guys, One Fun Guy podcast in the studio again. Tonight, my guest is going to be Justis. I'll let him introduce himself. He's a super good guy. So, Justis, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into this conversation.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Justis. I am the owner of Em Up Taquitos in Henderson, Nevada. I've also got an online boutique with my wife, and married for 15 years. Got 4 kids, so not a lot of time on my plate every day.
Awesome. So let's talk about the Em Up Taquitos thing, because this is awesome. We'll visit in July. We're definitely going to stop by. But how did you find this endeavor? Give us a little bit about the process of how to, where you found it, and then build from there.
So the story of how we found it is it's kind of funny. My wife was in California on a girls' trip for a photo shoot down at the clothing store we sell. And on her way back, she's passing through Victorville, California, which is it's midway between what people actually think Southern California is and Vegas. And it's probably 10, maybe a little bit before 10 o'clock at night. And she calls me, and we're talking school night. I'm by myself, 4 kids, so it's mayhem. And she calls me raving about this taquito that she's eating. And I kid you not, my response was that I don't care about your taquito. I got baths to give. I'm trying to get kids in bed. Lunch is made. I'm honestly, I don't care. So she gets home. We talk about it some more. We go to California quite often. We're 3 hours away, 3.5. So the next time we go down there, we swing in, and I get to try it. And she wasn't kidding. The food is amazing. It is fantastic. And a lot of people are oh, taquitos? We talking deli mex from the freezer? No. Big old taquitos, and it's all about the toppings. You got the shredded cheese on top. You got a few different sauce mixtures, all kinds of stuff. So we had been looking for somewhere to we've done pretty well in the boutique industry, but it's not something that we want to do forever, So we were looking for a long-term investment. We had been for a while. We got shut down from some soda shops in town. That's kind of all we had looked at so far. And this just kind of presented itself at just the right time. This was end of 2022, probably October-ish. So I reached out to the company, and I was like, hey, just checking in, so you guys do franchising. And the guy gets back to me. He's like, yeah, we actually just started. They got 3 corporate stores at the time and 0 franchises open. I think they had, I think the guy said, the guy ended up being a bit of a shark. He's been let go from the company. So he had he sold us on things that weren't exactly true. But he had told us there was 500 that are already paid for and in the works and yada, yada, yada. So we jumped in what I thought was pretty quick. It actually took 6 months to actually get the ball rolling. Mostly on me and my partner. We're both just regular guys. It's one thing if you're some corporation or a partnership of a bunch of guys who are just rolling in cash, and they're oh yeah, $1 million here, $1 million there, no big deal. We're sitting here, we're pinching pennies from the beginning, So they invite me down there to one of the corporate stores. I have lunch with the guy. I kind of check out their operation there. And that's kind of when we actually signed our name on the line and kind of got the ball rolling. And that would have been, probably beginning of 2023, maybe January. So that's when we started our hunt for locations. And what I thought was going to be the easiest portion of the job took us another 6 months.
Okay.
It was crazy. It's crazy how fast time goes. When you've got a long-term deadline, the days, they just burn away. It was unbelievable.
Sure. So now you find the location, you get a building. Do you have to convert the building into a restaurant? Was it a hollow building? Did you have to knock down walls to put in?
Yeah. So it was, Yeah, so it was what they call they're called a gray shell. So basically nothing there. You had there was no partition wall at the time, but it was in our lease that they would add that for us. There was quite a bit of the concrete floor that was ripped up. Um, so it was like exposing all your pipes and everything underneath, which was nice to a point. They end up, like, you can tell that they didn't really know what they were doing either. They've got like the grease trap next to the front door instead of in the back of the building, so that was a nightmare. But yeah, it was it was hard to find the spot because, like, in your mind you think it's going to be something so easy, but like when you actually start looking and you're looking at like demographics, like, you don't want to, like, your average median salary here in the Henderson area is like, I think it's high 60s. So you're wanting to put your building in a place where your household income is like in the 110s, 120s, because the food's not cheap.
Mhm.
It's not a cheap item. It's more along the lines of like your Chipotle's or your Cafe Rios and stuff like that. So a couple of the places we really liked was just dead center of just a median income, like 85, 90, which is just not what we were looking at. Like, road traffic, amazing. Like, it was checking all the boxes except for one. And we went through that for 6 months straight. Like, we were looking at places, I think it was like every Tuesday, our realtor had just a mile long list. And it was just yes, no, yes, no, yes, yes, yes. And then we would go back around and we'd actually go look at them. So yeah, it was.
So was there a percentage of like a square footage you like had to meet requirement wise, or like is that like something that like you had to stretch, or kind of like budget wise, or how
Yeah.
does that?
So they it's a franchise. So the corporate team wanted us between 1,200 and 2,000. There was a store that opened up in Vegas before us, a restaurant that opened up before us, and they were at like 2,800 square feet, which was way too big, and they were hurting immediately. And they actually ended up closing it down, sold it to another guy, and he's already closed. So they're having a rough time over there.
Okay. Now, is there a blueprint that you have to follow as far as like, so we'll just say the McDonald's, for example, right? Every McDonald's you go to in the world is the same setup. They look identical. Do you have the freedom and flexibility to kind of do what you want, or is it like, conveyor here, desk here,
so no,
here?
it's not like a cookie cutter, like everything looks the exact same, but there are a lot of things that they require you to do. For example, like when you go there, you're going to notice the walls have like a hippie-ish wall wrap all on them. There's lots of tie-dyes. There's lots of hippie flowers and stuff like that on the walls. So there's certain things that are required to have. And we were actually required to use their people to do these things, which actually bit us in the butt multiple times. We didn't have the best experience. Like, luckily we're a couple younger guys that don't mind a little bit of extra work. But yeah, it was a very bumpy build, very, very bumpy.
Okay. Now, as far as the building goes, do you have to get coded out by the town? Are there certain like restrictions for water, heat, gas, grease, oil, things like that? And then, so we'll go with that first, and then.
Yeah. So luckily Henderson it's a big city. So their systems are very much they're in place to be able to do this stuff pretty quickly. And all the buildings are fairly new, at least where we're at. It was a brand new building. Nothing had ever been in there. So it was pretty streamlined. Our GC, our general contractor, handled most of it. But that was the bumpiest part of our build. We had a very, very bad general contractor, but we were forced into using them because, like I said, we're just a couple guys like with regular jobs, like that have just saved some money and want to do something cool with it. So like we had a bid for a GC for $750,000. one for 500 and one for like 380. So we got to take the 380, you know?
Right.
And we knew we weren't getting the best, but we didn't realize how far down the ladder we were going.
Sure.
So the city, that was the least of our worries. It was pretty streamlined. It was pretty cool. The health inspector, she's become a friend of ours. She's awesome. She's a really cool chick. So yeah, the city and health and everything, that was what we thought was going to be a hard process, was actually pretty easy.
Okay, so now you have everything set up. You open the door. I'm sure you had a soft opening first, right, to kind of feel it out. Yep. And then kind of get everything. How do you hire employees? Do you put ads out? Did you have people in mind? Did you kind of have, kind of just roll with it? Or
so I went straight Facebook, and it ended up working out pretty well. The building was actually still being built, and we've got a patio off to the side. It's like an exclusive patio. So my general manager and we set up a tent. I brought out my little speaker. I threw on some reggae music, and we just did open interviews for like 3 days straight. And we just hired underneath this tent while they built inside. It was one of the cooler parts of the process, and our team, fantastic. My partner and we made the choice from the get-go that we were going to start our employees at a higher wage. I think minimum wage here at the time was like $10.75, I think. And we started at 15. And we've got one of those POS systems where like it asks you at the end, like if you want to tip like $1 or $2, whatever. So we started them at $15 an hour plus tip allocation. And we did this because, one, we wanted to attract the best, because my partner actually runs the Beatles Love Show on the Strip for the Mirage, and he's in charge of basically the entire show. So he does a lot of hiring, and I've done my fair share of hiring here at the boutique too. So we both know the importance of having low turnover, especially in something like this.
Sure.
So our idea was, okay, we're going to start people at a higher wage. We're going to hire the absolute best, and we're going to hope that people stick around, because hopefully we're cool to work for, the environment's nice, and they're paid well. And so far we've only had to hire one person. It's been amazing. In 6 months. No, we're at 7 months now. We've only had to hire one person. So it's been great.
Okay, so now the people that you said you attracted before with the medium income, they're families, right? Like, are you looking to like bring in anybody like with a name, or is that something you thought about doing, like to come into the restaurant? Or are you just kind of focused on the community, or are you kind of hoping that like one celebrity walks in and says, this is great? Or do you like expect that or push for it? Or
so hope? I'm throwing everything at the wall, man. This has been such a different experience from the online boutique. Like we caught lightning in a bottle with the online boutique. And I'm realizing now like how lucky we were, and a lot of things just fell our way and it just took off. This has been very different, very, very different. So I'm trying everything. We've had a lot of influencers in the door, and that's been amazing. Instagram, TikTok, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I'm actually working on launching our own Instagram and our own TikToks, so we can feature the food and stuff more often. But I haven't done very well with marketing. It's been a lot. It's been so different. Mm-hmm. And I'm having a hard time grasping the difference, and why. So
the business model is completely different then, right?
It really is.
Right. But you have enough knowledge as an entrepreneur though to kind of gravitate to an idea, right, of what you want to do. Because this is your first restaurant business adventure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I worked at a KFC when I was in high school. That's about all the restaurant experience I have.
Okay. So let's talk about the similarities from owning a boutique to owning a business. The parallels probably are similar. Obviously there's a lot of difference, but like you've had enough experience now where you felt you could do this without having another business person come in and saying, listen, this is what you need to do as far as running a restaurant. Have you thought about maybe going that route of like talking to people that have owned restaurants, especially, the Vegas area is a big restaurant city, kind of how Chicago is here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've definitely leaned on my partner quite a bit. He is from Northern California, and he opened up quite a few pizza franchises back in the day. So he's got a little experience there, and he is very experienced in the like in the business of people. He's really good with hiring and leading and stuff like that. So that was when I realized I wanted to do this and that I needed somebody to work with me, like that was the first person I thought of. So it's been nice kind of leaning on him for that. Uh, I don't know. It's tough. I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was, and
Okay.
I've gotten smacked with reality weekly. I've taken some blows, man, but uh, going through the online boutique, like it was the same way. It's just I bounced back a lot quicker. It
Mhm.
was there was a time with the boutique when advertising was it was out of control. So it was a time where I could tell you, hey, I'm gonna throw $100 a day at this specific ad, and I know for a fact by the end of the month I'm gonna have that back 10 times. And that was like 2017 through 2019,
Mhm.
every single month, over and over and over again. And this is not treated me the same way.
Right.
I'm wondering if I never got into local marketing, so I think that's where the big difference is. But I always thought local marketing would be easier, and it just hasn't been.
Right. So if you use, so you, I know you mentioned Instagram and you mentioned TikTok with the influencers. That's obviously a big thing, right? Somebody,
Mhm.
comes into your restaurant and says this is the best thing I've ever had, or they rate it on a scale system. Do you find that if, do you think that if that were to happen, that it would kind of boost the initial, but like long term, usually generally steadiness wins that race? Have you found that?
Yeah, so the steadiness winning the race, that's the only thing that keeps me going every day right now. Um, so the influencer route with TikTok and Instagram, it's a necessary evil right now. Um, the cool thing is that I've met some really fun people, like some really cool people that I hope that I can work with again. But yeah, we've definitely seen some like an initial pop, but then we get like, especially if I'm there, I try and read the register. I talk to people,
Mhm.
as
So
you
you're going
don't.
the networking route then
Oh,
more.
100%.
So
You have
okay,
to. I feel like that's the world we live in now.
right.
And I feel like people are more willing to pay for something that's a little more expensive. Like if there's an actual person on the other side of the transaction. Like people come in and like I'll be there, like I won't even be dressed in my roll 'em up clothes, and
Mhm.
that's not the best. I should be. But I'll just be there like in my regular clothes and I'll jump up, "Hey man, what's up?" I'll take an order, and I might have my kids with me. They might be chilling, like waiting for my other kids to be done with dance. Our dance studio is right around the corner. So they
Okay.
might be hanging out in the lobby, like, I don't know, playing on their tablet or something, or doing homework. And I'll jump up if the crew's busy, I'll jump up, I'll take an order, I'll talk them up and everything. So yeah, I've definitely tried to lean on the background in network marketing, because even on like a face-to-face basis, we've had such good return in customers. It's unreal. Like I'm only there like 2 days a week right now, and I'm seeing people every single week. They know me by name. I'm not good with names, so I don't know them
Sure.
by name, but I
Right.
recognize the face. I know their order. We talk it up. So it's the network marketing is definitely there, whether it's online or just me being there and just being chatty at the
Right.
register.
So I know you're in comparison to the strip, like so everyone realizes Vegas is Vegas. And then the off strip kind of has those communities around it. Do you
Yeah.
try to maneuver some of those people off the strip to come, or do you just kind of find your localness is going to be, your best bet? Or are you going to try to like pull people away? Because I've noticed, especially with you mentioned Instagram and TikTok. With Instagram, like I follow a lot of the Vegas like foodie places,
Mhm.
and I've noticed that like you'll see people going off strip more, saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is on the on a different area than the strip is mainly focused for the price, right? So if you want to find a steakhouse on the strip, you're going to be $300. If you find the steakhouse off strip, you're $100, and you're
Yeah.
getting this. So do you try to dabble in that?
So I'm not right now. We're definitely trying to start more local. Like we're doing a lot of fundraisers with local schools.
Okay.
We also our franchise rights are only for Henderson.
Okay.
So we have had a couple good catering deals with MGM on the strip, but those were when the Las Vegas store was down. So
Okay.
in between the sale from owner one to owner two, and then again after owner two's store went down. So the only reason we're able to do that is because the other store is not up and running.
Okay.
But we're going. I feel like the local route's the way to go. Henderson's been in the top 10 for like places to move for families for years and years and years. And they've got plans. Like we're kind of in the corner of Henderson. So you got Vegas, Henderson, and then like Boulder City where Hoover Dam is.
Mhm.
So we're kind of in the corner next to Boulder City. They've got plans, I heard, for 2 new high schools and like 40,000 new homes between me and Boulder City, which looking out my window right now, there's not a lot of room out there. They're going to have to
Right.
put it in a mountain or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
It's
we're
funny
definitely
because
going.
I started following the Vegas, real estate market too, just because it's kind of, up high on the list of like places to
Yeah.
retire to. So I've had my eye on that market for a while, and some of the real estate that's out there is phenomenal for the price that you can get for what you get. It's
Yeah.
Pretty unique that you're in that situation.
Yeah.
So
So local's definitely the way to go. We've
okay.
got a food truck in the works right now. It's actually a food trailer. So we plan on deploying that to like little league games,
Mhm.
high school football games, like homecoming events, all kinds of stuff like that. And what I see it as is a marketing and a sales tool in one.
Sure.
So like I said, I work Mondays and then I'll pop in like on a Thursday night while my kids are at dance to help out, like do some dishes or whatever I got to do to get them caught up. And I usually try and work the register so I can talk to people because I like to ask, hey, is it your first time? So if I'm only taking 10, 12 orders a week and half the people are telling me it's their first time, that means like we're at the beginning of our runway and hopefully it's a very long runway
Sure.
of new customers. So this is a way for us to get out away from the store while still making sales.
Okay. So now with Roll 'em Up specifically, without going into like too much detail, do they give you the freedom to do that, or are they kind of like are you like one store on your own, or do you have to do it in conjunction with the other Roll 'em Ups around? Like, are you able to?
So
Do they?
I'm kind of feeling this out as I go.
Okay.
We purchased a 3-store deal to cover the entire city of Henderson. Henderson's kind of shaped like Italy. It's kind of like a boot.
Okay.
So we're at like the toe right now. And then we had plans for a second store, like what would be up at like the top of the boot, if you will. And then the heel would be like where I live. So the stores, we're not even at break even yet. So we don't have any plans to open that store anytime soon.
Okay. But that's a possibility then, is what
100%.
as
Like
far as okay.
the goal was to open 3 stores. I paid for it. I'd like to
Right.
open 3, but I mean, I can't.
Sure.
I can't do that right now.
Right. And there's no time frame, right? That you have to have it by a certain, or is that like a personal thing or a store thing?
No, there is. So it was supposed to be every March. I was supposed to open a store. So March, as in 2 months ago, I was supposed to open my second store. And we haven't even looked at real estate yet.
All right.
So we're behind the franchise itself. They're hitting some bumps right now. There were some production bumps. It's a very young franchise. There's like 15 stores up and running right now, 3 corporate. So it's a very young franchise, and I knew there was going to be bumps, so prepared for it.
Awesome. So now you open the store, you have everything set in place. The way that it goes from the time that you open the doors to where you're at now, we've kind of talked about the market. When you have a store set up and you're open now, give us like the day-to-day, like, so like from a 7 o'clock like getting there to maybe opening at 9:30 or 10 for like lunch, and then closing at like 10. What are your like timeframes for getting there, making sure everything's ready, up and running, the register equals out, and all that kind of stuff?
So we've gotten very efficient. And this was another big thing in paying our employees more, because we wanted the cream of the crop. Like, we wanted the best employees we could possibly get. So the store is open from 10 to 10 every day. So our first employee comes in at like 9, and it's whoever the opening manager is. There's a new health law here that you have to have this special manager's card. Somebody has to be on shift at all times with this card, which is crazy.
Okay.
But and then so we close at 10, and then unless they're absolutely slammed in that last hour, the closing manager is usually gone by like 10:20, 10:30. So we've gotten really efficient with our time. But yeah, so it takes a good 45 to 50 minutes to cook everything, to be ready, like with all your sides and everything like that. The taquitos, excuse me, they're all cooked to order and topped and everything on site. Like your chips and salsa, your beans and rice, like your street corn and stuff like that, that's all prepared ahead of time. So it usually takes a good 45 minutes to get all that stuff ready. Usually the 10 to 11 o'clock hour is fairly slow. If you've got construction going on nearby, which we had like the first 6 months, it was busier, because you got those guys that are starting work at like 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So their lunchtime is 10:30. But for the most part, the lunch rush starts about 11:30 and goes until 2. And then you kind of have a little prep period again, and that's where our shift changes as well. And then the nights usually pick up right around 4:30, 5 o'clock. What we call our OLO system, online ordering, like that's your DoorDash, your Uber Eats, and stuff like that. That's something I didn't know how that was going to go, and it's been very very consistent. It's almost like you can almost guarantee 3 to 5 orders every hour, almost all day long.
Okay.
It's the weirdest thing. I just didn't know, because I don't really eat food like that. I'd much rather just go pick it up myself.
Sure.
than have it delivered.
Right.
So I didn't really know what to expect there, and it's been a nice surprise.
Awesome. So how are relationships with like vendors? So like cola and like getting the stuff, like did they set that up for you? Or do you have to find that like on your own?
So like I said, we didn't have any experience in owning a restaurant. So when corporate said, hey, do this, we just, okay, we'll just do that. And we found it a lot of times we're like, why'd we do that? Why didn't we do this?
Yeah.
So if we ever do open store too, completely different game. Like, we are going to be so ready to do the things that we want to do. But yeah, we don't really have personal relationships with vendors. Like, you got the corporate team, we've got they're called PFG, Performance Food Group. They're the ones who deliver the food.
Okay.
But other than that, like, the guy that cleans the grease trap, he comes like every 3 months.
Right.
I've never even seen him. I think they do in the middle of the night. Yeah, it's weird. I thought there was going to be a lot more of these personal relationships, but it's really not. It's so, especially because we're so small, like, we're just a number to all these people.
So now you have the store set up. You're looking for future franchises. Do you use the same people that you would for this store and the next one? Or, like, I know you said with like certain things you would do differently, but if you find a building and it's the same way, do you have kind of a game plan now that you would do, or like do anything differently?
We have a game plan of things we're not going to do.
Okay.
Because yeah, we made mistakes every step of the way. Every possible mistake you could make, we made it, and it resulted in a lot of money wasted, but a lot of knowledge gained.
Sure. Hopefully
we can put that into play. But yeah, there's a very rigid structure that you have to adhere to with working with the franchisor. So I think there's some things that they'll allow us to do on our own or change, but there's going to be some things where they're going to be like, "No, you got to do it like this." Because at the same token, like, and I didn't realize this going in, so the franchisor is like, it's like a Plinko machine. Okay, so you pay them your franchise fee. So X amount of dollars, and they drop that Plinko ball and it hits the first rung. Okay, that's your food. You're not just paying for the food. There's a cut of that goes to them.
Okay.
Then the next rung is your cola. They get a cut of that too. Next rung is your marketing. They take a cut of that. They take a cut of everything. I didn't and I knew, you pay your royalty, which I knew that
Sure.
going in, but I didn't realize that everything else was marked up a little bit, and they're taking their cut the entire way down, which, I mean, they should.
Right.
This is their like umbrella, their baby. So
Right.
I mean, I don't fault them for it. I wasn't prepared for it
Sure.
at all.
Now, are they receptive if you say, listen, we can do it this way and be more efficient? Do they listen to you, or they're like, listen, we have our way and this is kind of the end all of how they do it?
We've seen it both ways. The owner of Roll 'Em Up, he's a younger guy, and he is he's a dreamer. Like he's an artist. He's not so much like a big business guy. So he tries to surround himself with business guys. They just hired he's like a head of operations, and he's run a bunch of like Wing Stops and Wetzel's Pretzels and stuff like that. So he's trying to surround himself with a good team, which is super important. But he's like, yeah, him personally, he's your dreamer, which is great to have at the helm,
So going into the restaurant business now, is this something that, like, do you think you'll use this experience, keep the roll 'em ups going and adventure into something else, or is all your focus now 100% on the roll 'em up and making that successful, or are you kind of itching towards the next step?
So I'm also a dreamer. So I've already started thinking of other things I want to do, but I got to reel myself back in because I got to stay focused.
Sure.
Staying focused is tough. So ideally, I'd like to invest the next 5 years of my life into Roll 'Em Up and then be able to do something else. I don't ever see myself as like retiring.
Right.
That doesn't sound fun to me. I'd much rather have something to do. Like I lived like probably like the 5 years before I met Brianna, I lived with my grandparents, and they were entrepreneurs here in town. They had a whole bunch of commercial buildings that they built themselves and then rented out. So it was cool. I got to work with my grandpa for like the last 10 years of his life. And they had their own concrete company. They supplied all the concrete boxes that you put in the ground before a casket goes in.
Okay.
And like all the parking bumpers that you drag the bottom of your car on when you pull into a parking space. So it was cool. And that kind of, and shoot, he worked, he died when he was 81. He was working till he was like 78 until he like his body wouldn't let him do it anymore. And I feel like that's more the road I'm going down.
Sure.
I just don't feel, there's no way, I can't see myself kicking up and like doing a crossword puzzle for an hour and then watching Price is Right and then taking a nap. Like that's just not me. It's never gonna be me. So I'm gonna have to fill my plate with something.
Right. So as the Vegas metro area now is getting some major changes to the strip with the sports influences coming in, the professional teams, the F1 race, is all that kind of playing into like your mind of like what you want to get? Because there was some outrageous number about how many millions of people every year visit Vegas. It's the number 2 tourist destination other than Disney is Vegas. And so it's a mind-boggling thing that like how many people come in and out of the town. Is that something kind of in the back of your mind that like you kind of say the foot traffic ish, or is that something you're
so not? I'd love, dude, I'm a sports guy. Like I would love to have any type of partnership I could. We actually have we've got a professional women's volleyball team that's here in Henderson. And we actually had their star player come into the restaurant one day. And my wife, Brianna, my wife was there at the restaurant. And I think we were really busy that day. So she was just there like wiping tables and stuff like that. She struck up a conversation with this lady. She's just this really tall lady. And she's like we've got a professional women's basketball team here too. So my wife asked her, she's like, do you play for the Aces? And she's like, no, I actually play for, it's called the Vegas Thrill, which is a volleyball team. She's like, I actually just got here from China, which is where she was playing. And she said she's an absolute foodie and she's been starving living in China. So we got a really cool connection with her. So we definitely want to do something with that volleyball team. So we've got a couple options here in Henderson. There's like an indoor football team. There's the Silver Knights, which is the affiliate of the Golden Knights. And we've looked into a partnership with the Silver Knights, and it was expensive.
Sure.
So I can't even imagine what teams on the Strip would want. The Raiders, Golden Knights. I can't even imagine. Would I love to do it? Absolutely. Sure. I just don't know what happen.
If there were any restrictions as far as like the corporation, if you happen to rub elbows with somebody and they said, hey, we can, if you're able to make that maneuver.
And I'm sure they'd be all for it too. So their main stores, their corporate stores are based in Southern California. And they actually had a sponsorship deal with USC last season for football. So they had they've got a food truck and they had it at the USC games every week. They had USC gave them box seats and stuff like that. So, I mean, I would love to do stuff like that. I think it'd be an absolute blast. I think we are a little premature on that.
Sure.
And if the Vegas store ever opens back up or if somebody else buys it, it just wouldn't be possible.
Right.
There's such a hard,
there's
such a hard line. Like you're not supposed to cross this city line,
Sure. So in the grand scheme of things, with now being a restaurant owner and knowing what it takes to do that, the other side of things now with the boutique and everything that you have with underneath the umbrella of everything, is there a focus on growing the empire bigger? Or I know we talked about your focus in the next 5 years. But is it something now maybe getting out of, you're in the restaurant business, you have the boutique business, or was there be something else you'd want to do? Or are you just happy with the kind of having what you have? Or is it?
Dude, I constantly have ideas in my head. So, and I haven't told Brianna about this yet because she would absolutely kill me. And I need somebody to invent the 30-hour day so that I've got a couple extra hours to do some stuff. But my next idea, I don't know. Is pickleball popular in Chicago?
It's very big.
It is wild here in Vegas. So, and another thing that's out of control crazy here is youth sports. The youth sports market here is unbelievable.
Okay.
Like the travel teams, it's out of control. So, my idea is that I want to rent out a big commercial building, and I want to have a baseball training facility that's all on a pulley system. So during the morning, all the nets and everything go up, all the turf gets rolled up against the wall, the pitching machines, everything, it's all up against the wall. And it's pickleball courts underneath for because there's a ton of retired people in Vegas and they play pickleball 7 days a week. And 6 months out of the year, when it's hot, it's so hot you don't even want to go outside. They need somewhere to play.
Right.
So you've got tons of these indoor batting cages and facilities like that here.
Sure.
But from the hours of, I don't know, up until 2 p.m. when kids are getting out of school, they're closed.
Right.
But you're still paying rent.
Yeah.
So if you can figure out a way to get it on both ends, and I've even thought about going even a step further and have it as a CrossFit facility starting at 3 a.m. because those crazy people get up super early to work out. So you can be making money from 3 a.m. until 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So in Chicago, the big thing it always has been is softball. It's kind of the go-to. We've always had it. It's popular. I did, yes. So I don't anymore, but I was a big proponent of
I just played last night.
Yeah. So that was always big. But also Chicago has a big Italian influence. So bocce ball's huge here too. Ooh. So that's kind of the big thing that, if you have a bowling alley or any indoor thing, there's always usually a bocce ball attached to it. It's kind of like the big thing with the Italian influence in Chicago. But pickleball has been huge now for us. Like a lot of the park districts offer it. They're building facilities for it. And then obviously Chicago's always been a sports town, even though our teams have been awful for, the last 30 years. But it's a big market for sports. So the facilities here are unbelievable. So like Bo Jackson opened up his camp here. The Bulls have their expansion, Blackhawks for hockey. We have the Ice Hogs is in Rockford. So like it's a big hockey town just because the Hawks were so good as of recent. Obviously you're experiencing that now with Vegas, and the Golden Knights have been, kicking butt all over. But like through basically 05 to 15, the Hawks were on fire. I mean, they won 3 Stanley Cups, so that was a big thing. And then obviously the Bulls in the 90s with Jordan was, put, Chicago on the map globally, with sports. But it's always been a big community. So that's why I was just asking if you were trying to, break into that, because it's a big thing here in
I wish
Chicago.
Yeah, I wish. But yeah, so that's, I would love nothing more than to see that next dream out. But I gotta stay focused.
Right. So grounded is always the big thing, right? Like you're always, what's your next move going to be? But so now the roll 'em ups going for you well. Do you feel that when with everything you've looked back in the accomplishment, like obviously you've learned a lot of life lessons and a lot of business lessons with it, but are you confident now that the next one's going to be, an easier go round of it, or is it, something that you're kind of still?
So we're not doing great yet. I feel like the food trailer is going to be our ramp. I feel it in my chest.
Okay.
The food trailer is going to be what takes us off. We did one off-site event, and it was at the Henderson Little League opening ceremonies. And I was there with my GM and 2 of our better employees. So there was 4 of us there. We set up a tent that blew away. It took us like an hour and a half to set up when it should have been 20 minutes. It was an absolute dumpster fire. We sold more in 2 hours there than the store does on a regular day. In 2 hours. Okay. So
is the food truck scene in the Vegas area like big? Because in Chicago it's not, right? It's becoming more and more popular. I know in California it's a huge thing, and I know like down south it's kind of a big thing. But in Chicago, like in the Chicagoland area, the food truck scene is not very good. It's the solid old school restaurants that everybody wants to go to. And we have a few in Chicago. Like I said, we had the mobsters here. We had the Sinatras and stuff that have visited these places. But the food truck scene is not big in the Chicagoland area. It's just it's such a small market because our established restaurants are what everybody's going to. And brick and mortar still in Chicagoland area is huge. So is that a little bit something that is?
I feel like Vegas has a good mix of both. However, Henderson is starved for good food and always has been. I've lived in Henderson off and on since I was 10, starved for food. Like most of the food trucks you're going to find like on the west side of town or somewhere near the strip, like where the bulk of the people are. Every once in a while we'll get a truck come to Henderson, and I think they do okay. But I don't feel like we need to like follow like the food truck scene to find success with that. We've got a massive car dealership right around the corner from us, and we've been talking with them because they like to feed their employees on the weekends so they don't leave property.
Okay.
So if we come to them, we're going to be able to, I think there's 26 dealerships there or something like that. We can earmark 5 of them every Saturday, and we'll just rotate, keep going. It'll be prepaid for. When we were down in California doing our corporate training, they took their food truck to a Uline distributor. They do like garbage cans and all kinds of stuff like that. They just parked in the loading dock, and they said it was a $10,000 order, and they just sat there and slung taquitos for four hours during lunch breaks.
Okay. So the production obviously can make, if you went to these dealerships and they said, okay, we need to feed 500 people.
Yep.
You can place that order and they'll supply it. So you don't have any, no issues that way, right?
Yep. And then we can get out to the schools. We can go to the baseball games. We got an Amazon hub at the other tip of Henderson. We've got the Raiders practice facility in Henderson. Like our problem is that we are, like I said, we're Henderson's a boot. So we're way down here. And a lot of the higher priced homes and a lot of like the younger crowd, which is kind of what we're geared towards, is way up here at the top. So the food trailer, I feel it. It's going to be our ramp.
Because you can take that anywhere then, right?
100%.
And
as long as that other store is down in Vegas, we have there's no boundaries. We'll go wherever we want. Corporate team doesn't care.
So do you think that now having this is going to do that? Because if you take advantage of the strip now, why nobody's there, that's kind of a win for you, right? Until somebody else decides that they're going to come in. But at this point, that's, an advantage to
100%. It's fair game. So I'll send that trailer out every single day if I have to. I was telling my partner, I said, hey, if store 2 and store 3 don't work out and we just got to buy a fleet of food trucks,
right?
So be it.
Yeah, that might be it, right?
We'll just send out a fleet of food trucks. Right? Yeah, it is what it is.
To have that. So now moving forward, so everything works out well, everything goes. Do you plan on like staying in the Metro Vegas area, or do you think that this might be, something where you'd say, okay, it's gotten so successful that we can branch out? Is that, I mean, obviously that's down the road, but are your roots are obviously in the Vegas area?
Yeah.
So you've been there for such a long time. Is that?
Yeah. My wife was born and raised here. I've been here since I was a baby. So I'm basically born and raised. Our kids are all born and raised here.
Sure.
My wife's entire family is still here. My family's here. It would be so hard to leave. So hard. I wouldn't count out, like, let's say this food trailer thing did work even better than I thought it was going to. And we opened store 2 and that's an absolute knockout. We opened store 3 and it's killing it. And I'm sitting here like, man, what am I going to do? And let's say whoever, because all these other states around us, they're already bought from other people.
Sure.
So there might not be stores that are open there, but somebody owns the rights to open the stores. So let's say the guy in Utah says, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll open a store in St. George. It's only 2.5 hours from me.
Okay.
So I don't know if I would ever move, but I don't think I would count out being like, going to a different state and opening a store.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping things up now, where can we find you? Like, do you want to shout out the restaurant and give some props? Like I said, we'll be there in July, so we'll hang out. We'll take some pictures.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know when you're coming. I'll definitely meet you at the store.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't have my Instagram or my TikTok going yet. I'm telling you, the 30-hour day, somebody's got to invent it, so that I can actually get some stuff done.
Have you seen the Mark Wahlberg, how he plans his day? It's kind of unique. So he does the same thing, right? He only gets like 5 hours of sleep, but he's up every day at 4:30, hits the gym, hits the golf course, does his business. It's a really cool thing if you ever get to see it. It's what he does in 24 hours is pretty amazing.
I haven't sniffed the gym in like 3 years.
Yeah.
I need to. You can check out Roll 'em Up on TikTok, though. It's the corporate account. Don't look if you're not hungry, though, because you're about to be drooling when you see some of this food.
Awesome. So you know what we'll do? We'll plan a follow-up maybe in a few months down the road. We'll have you back on and we'll kind of pick up where we left off here and we'll see how things are going, from there. And then you can kind of, maybe we'll focus on the next time is maybe if somebody else wants to go into this kind of business venture, maybe you can give them the steps to follow, how to reach out, how to set up meetings, how to get, do the corporate stuff. And then we could talk about, maybe helping somebody else who says, hey, I want to start a franchise. How do I do it? Maybe we'll go the business route next time.
So the food trailer is going to kick off in July. So yeah, why don't we shoot for like sometime in August? We can, because I really do think that a good entry into the food business is to go the trailer route. Because I'm going to be able to have this trailer completely up and running for probably $40,000. The brick and mortar, you're getting closer to, you're probably between $500,000 and $600,000.
Okay.
So if somebody's wanting to to get in, and maybe they don't have the capital to go the route of a brick and mortar, this might be the way to go.
Well, that sounds good. So maybe what we'll do then is when we meet in July, we'll get we'll talk, and then maybe August, September we'll check in and see how that's rolling for you. And
when are you coming in July?
We're gonna go right before convention. So we always spend last year we spent 2 days in Vegas. We stayed at the Link, and then we drove from Vegas to Corona.
Dude.
So I think we're gonna do it this year, but we're just gonna extend the time because because last year my main goal was to get the Swatch watch at New York, and I ended up getting it. So I got the Omega Swatch.
Dude,
so
if you got the time, we should just do the podcast here in person.
We could do that as well. We'll set it up.
That'd be fun.
We'll do a night of it. So
yeah, that'd be cool, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being a great guest, and we'll follow up with you soon. And everybody, make sure you check out Rolling Up Taquitos if you're in the Metro Vegas area. Hit up the one in Henderson, and we'll go from there. So, Justis, thanks for being a great guest, and we'll catch you on in July then.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, perfect.